The senator from Michigan.
I ask unanimous consent that further proceedings be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Mr. President, we're going to withhold the unanimous consent agreement at this time. There's been a number of questions raised about it, and the time is being well spent, actually, because those questions need to be asked, but there's enough of them so that we will pick that up on Monday. But we're making good progress. We're going to have another 17 cleared amendments that will be coming up, we hope, in the next 5 or 10 minutes. We've already disposed of 77 amendments. We've done it in a way which I think will make this body proud that we are legislating. If people want to filibuster, threaten to filibuster or debate something, we're going to say, come on over and debate, which we have. So we've avoided these long periods of space. We've had no threat of a filibuster that has required a threshold of 60. We've had majority votes and not 60 threshold votes, except for that one technical budget amendment issue. So we're making great progress, I believe, and we'll continue to make progress. The leader in a moment, I believe, is going to file a cloture petition, which is going to help progress. But between now and the time we vote on cloture, both this afternoon and on Monday, we're going to continue to work amendments, to try to clear amendments, and I'm sure we will, to voice vote amendments in the case that they've been cleared and require a voice vote. The leader will, in a moment again, state what his plans are. But for the time being, I want to just thank our leader for the support that he's given to the managers. It's essential. We've had that support. We're grateful for it, and to all of our colleagues and the staffs for working through a bill which is always complex and always has literally hundreds of amendments. And with that, I yield the floor.
The Majority Leader.
The work done has been exemplary. The two managers appreciate it very, very much. We've disposed of 75 amendments. We have another batch they're going to approve very quickly. We've had roll call votes, so there's been significant progress made. We're not going to be able to get a locked-in finite list of amendments. That's always hard to do, but I'm confident that we are going to be able to get this done. Senators McCain and Levin and their staffs will be available over the weekend, and the staffs will be available more than the two senators who have spent many, many hours here on the floor. That we need to make sure that people have problems with the proposal made by the two managers, that they let them know, because we really need to get locked this in as quickly as possible. I'm going to file cloture in just a minute. I encourage people to work with the managers. We're going to go out, Senator Levin's going to, and McCain are going to clear a few amendments, and then we're going to go out for the weekend. But this has been a very productive week. Mr. President, I have a cloture motion at the desk.
The clerk will report.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, hereby move to bring to a close the debate on S-3254, a bill to authorize appropriations for fiscal year 2013 for military activities of the Department of Defense and so forth and for other purposes, signed by 18 senators as follows. Reed of Nevada, Levin, Hagan, Mikulski, Udall of New Mexico, Merkley.
Reading the names be waived.
Without objection.
Yeah. Mr. President, we're going to have a Monday, I ask under Rule 22, the mentor quorum be waived.
Without objection.
Senator Levin will announce to the Senate at a later time, but just to give an idea of what we expect to do on Monday, there will be a judge's vote and a Maryland judge on Monday evening, and then it will be followed by a cloture vote on this matter that I just sent the petition to the desk. And we would hope that there will be the ability at that time to, while the 30 hours is running, to clear a bunch of amendments. Mr. President, as if in executive session I ask unanimous consent, there be no amendments in order to the treaty or the resolution of ratification. that following leader remarks on Tuesday, December 4th, the time until 12 noon be divided in the usual form, that at 12 noon the Senate proceed to vote on the ratification of advising consent to ratification of the Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, that the resolution is adopted, the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid on the table, that the President be then immediately notified of the Senate's action. Further, that if the resolution is not adopted, the treaty be returned to the calendar, there be no motions or points of order in order other than a motion to reconsider.
Is there objection? Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President,
The senator from Arizona.
I'd like to thank the Majority Leader again for his encouragement of this process. As I said before, I think it should be an example for addressing further pieces of legislation before this body. It's been very tough. There's been hundreds of amendments that have been filed, many of which have been disposed of, and I believe, on Monday night, we could complete this legislation with the cooperation of all members so that this body could move on to other business. And I want to thank again my friend, the chairman, who continues to show unlimited patience, which is a quality that I do not possess. I suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Unanimous consent that further proceedings on the quorum call be dispensed.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I call up now a list of 17 amendments which have been cleared by myself and Senator McCain. And here goes. The Wyden Amendment number 2959, the Bingaman Amendment number 2984, Grassley Amendment number 3079, the Barrasso Amendment number 3082, the Vitter Amendment number 3087, as modified by changes at the desk, the Klobuchar Amendment number 3102, the Klobuchar Amendment number 3105, Murkowski Amendment number, I lost track, 3135, the Warner Amendment number 3145, Collins Amendment number 3196 is modified by changes at the desk, the Barrasso Amendment number 3198, the Klobuchar Amendment number 3234, the Reid Amendment number 3244, the McCain Amendment number 3247 is modified by changes at the desk, the Alexander Amendment number 3258, let me repeat that, the Alexander Amendment number 3258, Levin Amendment number 3280, the Begich Amendment number 3290, and
by our side.
now I ask consent that these amendments be considered in block, the amendments be agreed to, and the motion to reconsider be laid on the table.
Is there objection? Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Again, I thank the presiding officer.
Mr. President, I'd also like to thank the presiding officer for his patience and long period of time in the chair today. And we obviously have a couple of members of the media who have no other lives who have been observing as well.
I want to thank Senator McCain. He very humorously, with his great good nature, kind of joshes himself, comparing his patience to mine. My standard is not the one that anybody wants to follow around here. We'll never get anything done. He's more than patient, and I'm very grateful that he is standing there and sitting right in that ranking position, and I hope he stays in that ranking position in some committee, at least for many, many, many years in a ranking position.
I thank and I would also thank our distinguished chairman, and obviously you've been here a long time, but I also would appreciate our staffs who again show that work release programs are quite successful here in the Senate. I thank you.
Now, we have to close. I don't know if we have the closing statement. We do. Mr. President, I now ask unanimous consent that the Senate. Thank you. I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to a period of morning business with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that on Monday, December 3rd, 2012 at 5 p.m. the Senate proceed to executive session to consider the following nomination, calendar number 760, that there be 30 minutes for debate equally divided in the usual form, that upon the use or yielding back at the time the Senate proceed to vote without intervening action or debate on the nomination, the motion to reconsider be made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, that no further motions be in order, that any related statements be printed in the record, that the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action, and that the Senate then resume legislative session.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent now, Mr. President, that at a time to be determined by the majority leader in consultation with the Republican leader, the Senate proceed to executive session to consider calendar number 676, that there be 30 minutes for debate equally divided in the usual form, that upon the use or yielding back of the time, the Senate proceed to vote without intervening action or debate on the nomination. The motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, that no further motions be in order on the nomination, that any statements related to the nomination be printed in the record, that the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action, and that the Senate then resume legislative session.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the consideration of calendar number 508, Senate Bill 2170.
The clerk will report.
Calendar number 508, S2170, a bill to amend the provisions of Title V, United States Code, which are commonly referred to as the Hatch Act, and so forth.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent, Mr. President, the committee reported substitute amendment be agreed to, the bill as amended be read a third time and passed. The committee reported title amendment be agreed to with no intervening action or debate, and that any related statements be printed in the record as if read.
Without objection, so ordered.
I now ask unanimous consent, Mr. President, that the Judiciary Committee be discharged from the consideration of SRES 518 and the Senate proceed to its consideration.
The clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 518, congratulating the Southern Baptist Convention for electing Reverend Fred Luter, Jr. as the President of the Southern Baptist Convention, and so forth.
Without objection, the committee is discharged and the Senate will proceed to the measure.
And I ask now unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and any related statements be placed in the record as if read.
Without objection. So ordered.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the consideration of SRES 605 submitted earlier today.
The clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 605, designating the week beginning November 26, 2012 as National Tribal Colleges and Universities Week.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to this measure.
I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and any related statements be printed in the record as if read.
Without objection, so ordered.
Now, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to consideration of SRES 606, which was submitted earlier today.
The clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 606, commemorating the 200th anniversary of the founding of the Sisters of Charity of Nazareth on December 1, 1812.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and any related statements be printed in the record as if read.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the consideration of SRES 607, which was submitted earlier today.
The clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 607, relative to the death of the Honorable George McGovern, former United States Senator and Congressman from the state of South Dakota.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble agreed to, the motion to reconsider laid on the table with no intervening action or debate, and any statements relating to this matter be placed in the record as though read.
Without objection, so ordered.
Finally, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it adjourn until 2 o'clock on Monday, December 3, 2012, that following the prayer and the pledge, the Journal of Proceedings be approved to date, the morning hour be deemed expired, and the time for the two leaders be reserved for their use later in the day, that following any leader remarks, the Senate resume consideration of the DOD authorization bill S3254, and that at 5 o'clock the Senate proceed to executive session under the previous order. Further, that following disposition of the order with respect to the Grimm nomination, the Senate immediately resume consideration of S3254 and then proceed to the vote on the motion to invoke cloture, and that the second-degree filing deadline for amendments to S3254 be 4 p.m. on Monday.
Without objection, so ordered.
There will be two roll calls on Monday at 5:30. And I emphasize the two roll calls that I'm referring to would be at 5:30. The first will be confirmation of the Grimm nomination, and the second will be cloture on the DOD authorization bill. And Mr. President, there could be additional roll calls to the two that I've referred to on Monday, and I now would have to put in a note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
President,
The senator from Michigan.
I would ask that further proceedings on the quorum call be dispensed with.
Without objection, so ordered.
President, if there's no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it adjourn under the provisions of SRS 607 as a further mark of respect to the memory of former Senator George McGovern of South Dakota.
The Senate stands adjourned until 2 p.m. on Monday, December 3rd, and does so as a further mark of respect to the memory of former Senator George McGovern of South Dakota.
The U.S. Senate today continued debating and voting on amendments to the 2013 defense spending bill. Members unanimously voted on an amendment that would tighten sanctions on Iran, targeting its energy and shipping industries. That amendment, offered by Senator Menendez and Senator Kirk, would designate Iran's energy, port, shipping, and shipbuilding sectors as entities of proliferation and sanction transactions on those areas. The Senate will continue work on the bill and likely have a final passage vote sometime next week. Live coverage of the Senate when senators return here on C-SPAN 2.